views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
This show's audio was via a Skype call.
You are listening to People Like Us Radio with Megan Lyons, transcending the trauma of the human experience. In this hit show, Megan will show you how to find true healing and inner peace through the art and practice of self-love. Megan works to uncover the deeper psychological proclivity that fuels toxic behavioral patterns, and she'll help you integrate creative processes and holistic healing so you can effectively process and transmute trauma. Now here's your host, Megan Lyons.
Hey, Megan, we're back.
Hey, Dr. Pat, how are you today?
Awesome. We're back. For those of you tuning in, yep, you are going to get to hear some incredible radio today. People Like Us Radio. I get to co-host with Megan Lyons because this is about what we do to transcend the trauma of the human experience. And, you know, it doesn't matter how you define that or how you define the word trauma. It's going to be different for everyone because we're not cookie cutter people. You know, we're people that take a journey that is clearly different from your neighbor, from your brother, from your sister. There are no two experiences in life that are alike. It's impossible to be. So today we're talking about the transformative power of trauma. But before we jump into this, you should know why this is important to Megan. You know, in her life, day in, day out, as an attorney, she brings this background in family law and personal experience as she deals with, you know, things like narcissism, you know, psychopathic behavior, sociopathic behavior. And I'm not even done talking about relationships yet. But all of this is what shows up. And in the end, people become traumatized. That is what happens. You know, whether it is something that's going on at work, and we'll talk about that today, or it's something that's going on in politics, it doesn't matter. The ability to have this affect us is our birthright. You know, we all of us have been given the ability to process emotions. But what happens when our emotions suffer greatly? What do? That's why Megan in her practice has complete compassion, yet brings a powerful attorney skills to the table so that when we look at how to move forward, we move forward powerfully. Megan, great to have you. This is part 2 of a conversation we started earlier about the trauma wounds, right?
Yes. The trauma wounds of the human experience that inevitably affect people's, you know, their development, their stages in life that bring them to, you know, these various cases that they're in with their spouses or former spouses involving their children. These traumatic experiences inevitably will shape the way their children, their personalities develop in so many cases. It's just inevitable that these conflicts will really determine how the children manifest personality traits, whether or not they address the experience or whether they've lived in a household that sort of shoved the experience under the rug and they were sort of groomed to ignore it or deny that traumatic experience. I think that can be terribly, terribly damaging. Because essentially they've been living a lie and they don't really have a close connection to their identity. And, you know, then there's families that do address these things, but perhaps they make that all that their life revolves around is these, you know, horrible relationships and and they maybe tend to blame shift, and just focus all of their anger and emotions on, the former spouse, and then they become the bad guy, and then there's not a lot of internalization or reflection that happens. So there's just a variety of things that happen that can be damaging or that can be productive when it's really examined deeper.
You see this day in, day out. So you not only have firsthand experience, in representation as an attorney, but you get to see the good, the bad, the ugly in all of this. What are some of the ways that trauma has shown up? How do you see it? How do you know when somebody walks into your office? What are the signs that you've picked up on?
Well, one of the main things, if somebody has reached out to me specifically for representation in a case involving a pathological narcissist or sociopath or cluster B disorder is the psychology term, they tend to be very hypervigilant. They tend to be non-trusting. They inevitably have some form of PTSD. It could be extreme, cases of PTSD, and there's a new diagnosis now called narcissistic victim syndrome that kind of, it is just another form of PTSD or complex PTSD, but I think that really it's just from dealing with so much narcissism in different, and I don't think it just has to be individual relationships, but I think just society at large. I think that's unfortunately where we're at right now with a lot of governing bodies. And, even if we go to a doctor or a lawyer, I get that a lot. People that have dealt with a narcissistic attorney before they've come to me. So maybe they haven't experienced a lot of empathy or they've just been completely duped or scammed. So that abuse tends to just continue. And then people become more and more victimized, more and more vulnerable. And therefore, the more vulnerable that they are, the more susceptible they are to an abuser. And a skilled abuser can typically sense that victimization. They can smell it a mile away. So
yeah. I mean, that's the sad part.
Those are some of the things I see.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the sad part? Yeah, at least I think it's the sad part.
Yeah, because an attorney or a doctor or maybe police officer, those positions that exist today that we need in a time of help or emergency, those people that are vested with the power in that particular role may often exploit that and become, another abuser rather than somebody who is actually helping the situation and creating, more of a problem rather than, diminishing it, which is terrible. And it's very, very sad.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about is super important to get to. And that is the fact that, when we look at our lives, so often we are ashamed, number one, that we're in a situation. Number two, we've probably tried to tell other people and nobody's listening. That never feels good, right? That one.
No, not at all.
Or three, you kind of have convinced yourself it's not that bad.
Exactly. Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
I know that I did that big time because it's a way for the person that's experienced it to, it's like a survival mechanism or just a defense mechanism in which a coping strategy. It's a way for somebody that has experienced severe trauma to sort of cope with it, is that they have these two conflicting beliefs going on in their head and, at the same time. And, in order to have those two conflicting beliefs be reconciled, they may come to a conclusion about the person's behavior. Oh, they're not so bad, or, what have you, something that's not as egregious, or, not as severe, and they may adopt that in order to sort of deal with it. And that can be harmful as well if it's not true, because that can just lead to more pain and more susceptibility to these, this pathology or these, personality types that are quite damaging if not if it's not treated with the sort of proper analysis. If we don't understand the disorder and the harm that it can do, then it can be very damaging.
Well, and this is what we're talking about today, too, because, I think it's odd for people to hear, someone like you, an attorney who represents people, to have the kind of compassion about this. But, one of the things I learned is you can't take a person to a place you haven't gone yourself. And, our own personal experiences enable us to not only spot things sooner, but to have a level of power and compassion at the same time to help people move from the dark to the light. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the transformative power of trauma. What do we do? And is there such a thing as that transformative power of trauma? But before we do, Megan, what's the best way for people to find out more about you, the best way to contact you, especially, if they're in a situation like this?
My phone number is 941-260-6444. And I have various websites. I've got, my law firm website, which is www.fiercelaw.com. Or you can check out www.enterthelightllc.com and reach me that way.
Awesome. We're going to take a short break. We're also taking your comments and your questions, 1-800-930-2819, or go to transformationtalkradio.com and you can type your question right there. Anything that you need help, advice on, whatever that is, this is a conversation to make sure that whatever you've experienced, you're moving through it and you're getting the help. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Conscious Confidence Radio, a timeless wisdom with Sarah Main. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio and join Sarah on an adventurous journey to the deeper level of meaning to move beyond today's world of constant change, confusion, and uncertainty beyond the shadow of fear. This hit show explores key concepts such as confidence, values, and attitude in a dynamic way. To learn more about Sarah and her work, visit sarahmain.com.
Stay juicy. Tune in to Your Juicy Love with me, Una Drake, co-hosting monthly with Dr. Pat, and every second Monday at 12 p.m. on Transformation Talk Radio. My show, Your Juicy Love, helps you find the dynamic, life-affirming love you've always wanted. Transform your relationships and bring peace, joy, and juicy, juicy love to planet Earth. For more information, visit unadrake.com.
Demystifying the Journey on From Here to There Radio with your host, Diane Garris. Tune in every third Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time on TransformationTalkRadio.com as Diane helps you get from where you are now to the life you envision. Get ready to get unstuck and move forward. Every show features a new special segment, New Age Notes, demystifying hot metaphysical topics of the day. For more information or to work with Diane, visit DianeGarris.com.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
This is Debbie Pokornik with a moment for standing in your power. Self-control begins with noticing how different feelings present themselves in your body. When you're feeling sensitive, for example, your chin might quiver. Tears might well up in your eyes, and your voice might catch in your throat. Anger, on the other hand, might appear as tension in your jaw, back, or arms, along with clenched fists, heat in the upper torso, scowling, and a strong desire to yell. The more aware you become of your body cues, the easier it will be to recognize when you're on the road to disaster. Choose the emotions that cause you problems, then start noticing and logging the body cues that come with them.
For information and to work with Debbie, visit empoweringnrg.com. That's empoweringnrg.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. You are tuning into People Like Us Radio. I'm Dr. Pat. I get to co-host this with Megan Lyons, who's created this phenomenal show to help everyone understand that you can transcend the trauma in your life. And, sometimes we think about trauma and we don't think about how do we get from where we are to where we want to go? How do we make a positive change? And so today, with this, Megan's bringing on vast knowledge and experience, especially from, her practice as an attorney, but also from life and life experiences. And so the series is all about traumatic wounds of the world and how we can shift to a positive change and do that naturally and inevitably. Megan, before the break, we were talking about, here we are, we have a traumatic event in our lives. The question is, where do we go from here?
Well, I think the first thing is to talk about it and to find somebody that will listen and, to be able to process it in a healthy way. So many people ignore their pain, and whether it be emotional or, some other type of pain, or they, take some sort of medication or drugs to sort of avoid feeling it to the fullest. And I think that can cause a lot more harm later down the road. So, for me, it was inevitable to face it just because it was just so extreme. I couldn't really ignore it. And, although it was difficult, it had to be done. So I had to just, become one with it and really take it on as a challenge, because I knew that I would never, ever get away from it or ever grow as a person if I didn't address it fully and completely.
What are some of the things you learned?
I'm sorry?
What are some of the things you learned?
Well, I learned a lot about myself because I was curious as to why I kept attracting, a certain type of personality dynamic, and just it appeared really crazy and insane, the cycle that I was in, just kind of continuing to attract personalities and relationships that would end really traumatically and really in a way that was just catastrophic. And so it caused me to look at myself and why was I doing this? Why was I attracting this? And so I learned about like a lot of my core subconscious wounds that weren't healed from childhood, and abandonment trauma was the main one. And so I found myself, I thought that I wanted, these long-lasting romantic relationships. I thought that that's what I wanted, but really I think that there was a part of me that didn't want that and wanted something exciting and fun and interesting. And so I chose mates like that weren't really going to be, long-term marriage partners or people that would be really stable and, happily ever after. I was attracting more of a roller coaster dynamic because deep down I was afraid to have something of a permanent nature because I had a lot of abandonment fears, and, that started when I was a kid and from just the natural death of grandparents or, parents and things like that. So I think I had a fear of actually getting too close to people, and therefore I would attract relationships that would be traumatic, and that wouldn't go, that wouldn't go far ultimately. That would end in some sort of, disastrous way to sort of replicate that cycle from my childhood.
Yeah. And that's why you can see it, though, in other people, too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People tend to just repeat the traumas that they haven't healed. And sometimes healing it just means having awareness of it and being able to acknowledge it and then make better choices. It doesn't mean that you're going to heal something that's likely been passed along, for many generations. That's almost impossible to do, but just to have more of an awareness of it is key.
Yeah. What do you, people obviously come to you for a variety of reasons, right? Whether it's divorce, whether it's just simply things that are happening in their lives that they need legal counsel on. And yet at the same time, it's very difficult to think clearly, so to speak, right? When you are traumatized from the event. What is it? Yeah. What do you do in a case like that? Where, like, I'm pretty sure most of the cases that come in are kind of like that.
Right. Well, I try to really focus on the person's mental state and, make that a part of my strategy with them and my counsel is not just to focus on, because we can't focus on legal strategy and even have the wherewithal to gather client documentation or evidence or anything like that. I mean, we can't do any of that in any sort of productive way if we're not of a mindset that, allows for that basic focus. So I try to take a lot of time at the beginning, even if it's hours on the phone or in person. And a lot of times I visit the clients' homes. I get to know them on a more personal level, which is definitely out of the ordinary for attorneys. But I get really close with these individuals because, we're on the phone. They're giving me their deepest, darkest, perspectives and fears and anxieties. And so I think that, like, building that trust and rapport is really key. And once they know that I'm somebody who really cares about them and is there for them, that allows for a more stable kind of dynamic. And they just feel better once they can get a lot of that off their chest. And once they realize that they're dealing with somebody who understands and gets it, because then I can sort of vindicate their experience. And when often it hasn't been validated up until that point. So I try to really focus on getting to that place first. And, I don't do any techniques per se, but I just kind of show real, genuine empathy and by my actions. And, people know when that's there and when it's not. It's not really something that can be feigned too easily. So I focus on that. And once they get to that place of more of a calmness and they have some sort of hope, then they trust me, and then we can discuss some of the basic strategies, from that point on. I think, and then they're going to trust me.
I mean, let's talk about where we are and how we, today's topic is taking a look at trauma and creating a positive, transformative experience with that. I mean, on the surface, it sounds like it's daunting and very hard to do, but it's not something but you've also seen it though, right? You've seen it show up in people's lives. Do you have any examples of those or ideas of where to start? Because folks are going to want to know. Today's show really is about this idea of, looking at transformative power of trauma. And I'm so curious to hear what you've seen in this transformative power.
Well, the amazing thing that I've seen is that these really, really, really deeply traumatic situations, particularly involving these personality disorder dynamics, they get to the soul. It's not just, okay, we talked about trauma on the first episode as, you know, trauma being energy and a blockage of energy. And, you know, that can start with an injury. You know, a shoulder injury can be a trauma. Okay, but when we're talking about the emotional and the psychological traumas that are just so deep into the soul and into the experience of a human being and just this deep suffering, it tends to, like I said, trigger like other traumas that the person experienced in their life that they maybe that weren't in the consciousness. So they were something that were, you know, deeper and from childhood or something like that. Well, when they become aware of that and the full impact of it sort of comes to light, the only way to move forward is to somehow be one with that experience and use it as a way to be more empathetic to others. And it has to fuel you from the soul and the spirit. And people that have gone through it, I find that they become a lot stronger of people because you have to get through it. I mean, either you give up or you become narcissistic and cold and resistant, or you become a warrior and you become more empathetic, more compassionate. You just become deeper emotionally on every level with every emotion that you feel. And you really want to connect with other people who have been through it because you know how horrible it felt. And you know that it's like, well, I want to be that person now for someone else. So, and there's many different ways to be there for somebody else. And I've seen people, a lot of these coaches, my friend Kim Syed, she's going to be interviewed on the show, Donna Anderson with Love Fraud. These people, they've made it their life to become coaches for narcissistic abuse. And they've created platforms to use creativity, you know, not just, I don't see it as just one way to coach people. You know, there's a lot of workshops and retreats and stuff like that go on. I think that's a really beautiful thing. And people find, I think, that they become almost obsessed with this topic. And, you know, it's just something that they think about all the time and they've studied it. And now they want to give it back and pay it forward and do something positive with that energy instead of letting it suffocate them.
Yeah. And, you know, what you talked about is so important. A lot of times, you know, we think we got to take the journey by ourselves. But you talked about some of the great people that you're going to be bringing on the show and join in the conversation. And I think that's part of it. You know, understanding what we can do alone, is seriously important. But what we can do together is epic. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Megan about, like, okay, these are the things you just want to be aware of. What are the signs? And then how do you know when you're making progress? That and much more. Megan Lyons, People Like Us. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to stop stress, anxiety, and low self-esteem from running your life? Join award-winning author Dr. Friedemann Schaub for Empowerment Radio and learn breakthrough solutions to switch out of survival mode and approach every day with great ease, joy, and purpose. Tune in the first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific to Empowerment Radio with host Dr. Friedemann Schaub on Transformation Talk Radio. Visit thefearandanxietysolution.com to learn more.
Tune in to Knowledge Book Radio with host Marge Potasic each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Through many experiences, Marge was led to the Knowledge Book, a gift to humanity in its transition to the Golden Age, and it provided the truth and the answers. She now shares information from the Knowledge Book with you each week on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information, visit usa.theknowledgebook.net.
High-frequency healing for an amazing life with Source Light Radio. Join host Laura Barton, each month on Transformation Talk Radio as she explores source light integration, a unique spectrum of energy, light, and frequency. Experience instantaneous healing and amazing shifts in consciousness with Source Light Integrations Radio. For more information on Laura and her work, visit sourcelightintegrations.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Scheidegger, clinical hypnotherapist and founder of Swiss Hypnotherapy. My goal is to help you to reach your goal, and this is a tip with purpose. Everybody wants it, and nobody has enough of it. But it comes to a point that you have to tell yourself, I can get more. I want more. I deserve more. I'm talking about money. More money, more money, more money. That's what people want. But what has to be done? Your thoughts have to change. That you can allow yourself to tell yourself, I have money and I want more money. How much money? What is it? Put it out there. Write it down. What would you do with more money? How would you feel to have more money? I hope this tip helps you going through the day today. You can reach me at 323-999-4775 or at my website at swisshypnotherapy.com.
Join Jennifer Noel Taylor on the hit show Quantum Touch Radio, supercharging your life on transformationtalkradio.com. You'll take a quantum journey as we reveal powerful yet simple steps to create more abundance, better health, emotional and mental vibrancy, and happier relationships using universal quantum touch principles. For more information, visit jennifernoeltaylor.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Yep, this is it. One of the things I love about this is, we get to talk about things that are not just headlines that you might hear in the news, but things that people are experiencing in their lives. Things that that there's a promise to the end of darkness. You know it, but you can't seem to get there. And that's why Megan Lyons has taken this on in her fabulous show, which is People Like Us Radio, Transcending the Trauma of the Human Experience. And earlier, Megan, you talked about, look, this is how we're going to bring you this message in the weeks to come. But before we get to that, and you're going to talk a little bit about that, what are some of the ways people can get a hold of you? Now, you have a couple of websites. There's also your practice. So let's make sure we get that up, too.
Yes, I do have a law practice. You can find more information about my law firm at www.fiercelaw.com. And there you will see the different areas of practice. Family law is my main gig with these complex, high-conflict personality disorder dynamics. Mm-hmm. And then www.enterthelightllc.com has some of my coaching work, for people that I do get people that call me from different states and even on occasion different countries that want to discuss their cases with me, with somebody who understands narcissistic personality disorder, and how they, even with help in finding an attorney in a different state, I can help with a variety of different things. And I'll usually do an hour to 2 hour call with people, and I'm not too, strict on that. So I want people to have a forum and an opportunity to be heard when they haven't had one, perhaps prior to speaking to me. So you can also call me. Just call me direct, my cell phone, 941-260-6444, or send me a text message. That way I can make sure I can get a hold of you and in a personalized sort of way.
I love it. We talked about the fact that you are not just, coming on air and, sharing this experience, but you're creating learning experience for people. You're going to bring on other guest hosts with you to talk about the work they're doing. One of the things that I know you wanted to get to is, how do you learn new skills? How do you learn new habits? Tell us about some of the things you're planning with your co-host.
Well, like I said, I have two people just right off the top of my head that I can think of are Kim Syed, and you can look her up at letmereach.com. And she is definitely one of the pioneers in this movement of narcissistic abuse recovery. And she has a lot of great programs within her site. She's got a class that you can take, which I think there's a section of it that I wrote, talking about the legal aspects of it. She's got a boot camp. You can do coaching with her. And then Donna Anderson has a website, lovefraud.com, which I get a lot of, people through that site that's been around for, I want to say 20 years. And it's very educational. There's quizzes, there's tests, there's coaching, there's articles, there's books. There's Kim also wrote a book called How to Go No Contact Like a Boss.
Yeah.
And it's dealing with the concept of going no contact with your narcissist or your abuser. And Donna has, several books as well. And she's, the author of lovefraud.com. Now, she has a relatively new platform. I think it's about a year old now that I was with her creating this platform as well. And it's basically for various different professionals that have created courses and curriculum on various different topics. Mine, I have basically the legal section.
Yeah.
I have, like 2 or 3 classes now, and I'm creating more. But those are really good for people that want to learn more, skills and techniques. And there's just such a wide variety. I focus on the legal ones, but she's got many different professionals that have created coursework. She's got, emotional. I think there's something called EFT. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's pretty popular.
Yeah.
But it's like emotional feeling or freedom technique or something like that. It's tapping and things like that. But she's got
emotional freedom technique. Yep.
Yes. So there's a bunch of different things that you can look into and peruse and take a look. They're pretty low cost. You can take the classes, but I think it's really great that people are being bold and courageous and taking a stand with this kind of stuff and trying to create the change.
Okay, so part of this too is having an eye or keeping your eye on a positive future. Because so often, right? So often what happens is that you completely forget that your life can become better, right? You're so immersed in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to tell you, I've got some people, former clients that are so traumatized by political events. All of their triggers have been hit, and they have enough tools to know what to do about it. So isn't this also, one, you got to keep an eye on a positive future, but 2, you better have a toolkit to build up, because sometimes these traumas didn't get there overnight. And sometimes they're related to what's going on, but sometimes they're outside. How do you help people with this? Clearly, you also help people build that toolkit, don't you?
I do, and the people have to be receptive to it.
Yeah.
That's something that I find difficult, and something that I've only been able to really learn over time in doing these cases. But a lot of times, what I see is somebody that calls me or emails me or what have you, and they're saying that, they're dealing with a narcissist and they're dealing with this, that, these behavioral patterns, and, they list out all of the symptoms. But then a lot of times I see that person, they end up being almost the exact same way. And so there's a lot of focus, and maybe too much focus, on the other person's behaviors. And the people, if they don't want to listen to the solutions or really have the desire to implement any strategies for change, then that makes my job really hard too. And sometimes I have to step away from a client that just after, maybe like a year or 2 years of dealing with them, it's clear that they're not taking any steps to change, or not even really having the faith to listen to my advice and have confidence that it may work.
I mean, isn't it fascinating that there are so many, life is complex. And so we don't realize that all of the times that we look at ourselves and we look at our lives, it's not unidimensional. And what I mean by that, it's not the idea, for example, that, okay, I've taken care of this thing that's, causing me trauma. But sometimes it's just many things. And, how do you, I don't even know how somebody gets through any kind of court process, knowing they've been traumatized, either pathologically or, narcissistically. I mean, that is enormous. And this, a lot of times legal agencies, legal firms are not even aware of it. I mean, it's not even on their radar to even think about, right?
And that's a new, another new area is the legal abuse trauma. And there's, a couple of professionals that are starting movements on that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's becoming definitely more into the overall awareness as it's just being discussed more and more and things like that. But speaking about Donna's site again, she has a couple of courses on there. I do 1 or 2 of them. But then there's a professional that talks about the Americans with Disabilities Act and how that plays an important role in court cases. One thing that I do, for example, when I do my mediations, there's something called, and it's a legal term, it's a Latin term, it's called caucus. And it just means let's separate the parties. So as a matter of course, I always put my clients in a separate room from the adversarial party. And I just feel like it makes such a difference because a lot of that trauma energy or just anxiety that somebody might have is just automatically now taken out of the equation, or it's significantly diminished by the parties not being in the same room staring each other in the eye. And in the courtroom, that can be invoked as well. That same procedure for somebody that has PTSD or some other mental or emotional disability or diagnosis. If that's proven in some way, then that can even go into the courtroom setting, and the two parties don't have to face each other. So I think that's a really cool thing, and it helps people tremendously if they know about it. A lot of people don't know about it.
They don't know about it. Let's take a short break. When we come back, Megan's going to walk us through a summary of here's where you are and here's where you're going to go, and this is how you get there. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
What is holding you back from living the life you are meant to live? Why is it vital to believe in something bigger than yourself? Are you in physical or emotional pain? Tune in monthly to Vibrant Purposeful Living. Awaken the vibrant life within you with Lou Paradise and Dr. Pat on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Lou's passion is to help everyone experience positive solutions for life. Find out more about Lou with Vibrant Purposeful Living at LouParadise.com.
Love Living Radio Ignite Your Whole Being with Emily Perkins is a show for those looking to explore the sparkling magnificence of their inner selves. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific as Emily sheds a radiant light of love on the beauty and power that resides within you. discussing love in all its forms through conversations that provoke awareness, curiosity, and expansion. Emily shares the unlimited power of love. For more information or to listen to this show, visit lovelivingHolistics.com.
Living Lighter Radio with Jason and Patricia. We have an ecosystem approach to your life. Tune in weekly every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as we, Jason and Patricia, discuss what's truly holding you back. We offer you the tools you need to reach your goals and at the same time be living lighter. For more information about Living Lighter, visit www.livinglighter.org.
Miss any shows during the week? Don't worry, we've got you covered. With the free Transformation Talk Radio app, you'll have access to all of the past week's shows in the palm of your hand. Tune in to Transformation Talk Radio anywhere you go with our free app for any of your devices. Check out our app in the App Store and Google Play Store today.
Hi, this is Laura Richer, host of On the Verge Radio. Sometimes you hear encouraging messages like transform your life now, become empowered, create the life you crave, and it all seems overwhelming and you're not sure where to start. I'm here to tell you that self-improvement is not always fun and easy, but it is always worth it. The path to creating positive changes begins with releasing the things that have been holding you back. Then you can create a life that inspires you. I know this because I've done it. You can find out more about what I do by visiting my website, seattlehealinghypnosis.com. I look forward to supporting you on your journey.
Yeah, everybody, welcome back. People Like Us Radio. Megan Lyons has put this together, and boy, do we have a series of juiciness coming your way. You know, look, we can all know in our lives that trauma shows up. I mean, Megan and I are not sitting here talking about it because, you know, we got nothing better to do. We know what trauma is. We know it firsthand from a variety of reasons. But like she's done, we've decided that we're not going to hide anymore about it. We got to open up a dialogue. We have to have conversations, and that's what she's doing. And so in the next bunch of weeks coming here, you're going to see guest hosts come on the show. They're going to be expanding the conversation, all of that. Before we jump ahead, one more time, give out your phone number, Megan, if you could, and your website.
My phone number is my cell phone. You can reach me by text or call me, leave a voicemail, 941-260-6444. I like text messaging, so don't be shy. And you can reach me online on my website, which is www.fiercelaw.com or www.enterthelightllc.com. You can email me also at mlyons, that's MLYONS, at fiercelaw.com. Any of those modes of communication I am receptive to.
Oh, awesome. So we've talked about a lot today, and we also set the stage for the weeks to come and the shows to come. But let's keep in mind that the end game here is to create a positive, amazing life and not to become our trauma. And that's really one of the major messages I hear you talk about today. You know, you can experience trauma, but we don't have to become it. That's different.
Right. I think that people, that's the big danger with so much trauma is that they just don't have a way to get beyond it, and they ruminate in it, and you know, myself included. I mean, I did that for a long time, and I felt like I would never get beyond it, and that this was just going to be me. You know, I'm just going to be one big magnet for more pain and trauma and suffering. And so when I was in that place, and I'm not going to say that I'm completely immune to it at all. That would be ridiculous. But, you know, I just pray about it. And I just say, I ask to be used, you know, that my pain not be in vain, and that, you know, I can take all this that I've gone through and use it for the greater good and for to tell a story of positivity and peace, and that it's not all doom and gloom forever. It's just not. It inevitably gets better. And that is the truth. So, but people have to actually believe that. And what we were just talking about on the break is that, people have to believe that they're worthy of something better. And when you go through so much trauma and you're a victim of so much horribleness, so much horrific suffering and just depravity, I think one thought that comes to mind for people that I hear a lot that I used to say, and I no longer say it, but people say, what did I do to deserve this? God, I must have been a horrible killer in a past life or something like that.
Right.
People begin to believe that they deserve it, and that they really deserve this pain and suffering, and that they're not worthy of anything more. That belief it's often a subconscious one, and it's often not into the has not come to fruition into the awareness, into one's conscious awareness. It's a buried belief. But if that is the belief that one has, then that's going to just continue to attract more of the same, and it'll honestly get worse. The traumatic experiences will get worse rather than better. So one has to believe that they are not their trauma, that they deserve happiness, they deserve peace, they deserve a life that is devoid of trauma. Don't you agree?
I agree. I mean, I think it has to start there. And, hopefully it starts before you get to the point of no return. And what I mean by that is I think there's always a return, but there's a point you get to where the optimal amount of suffering and pain, it's really at a max point. And if you can learn some things and catch it before that, right? I was very fortunate first time around to catch it before that. But, it's in the discovery of tools. But the other thing, Megan, I got to get back to something you said. For people that are listening to this show, you need to be picking up the phone and calling Megan, because she and I both know the power of that. And what I mean by the power of that is that going it alone isn't really going it alone, because you've got all of the voices, all of the ghosts of your past, or maybe the present, haunting you, and that's not going to break the cycle. Because what we're talking about as a first step, Megan, is breaking the cycle. You got to stop something.
Yes. Right. And often, you can't break the cycle until you have that awareness, or that, you've taken that moment in which you're assessing things and realizing that, hey, I'm creating this in some cases because I believe this about myself, and I believe I deserve this. So therefore, because of that belief, I'm part of the dynamic perpetuating itself, and it does not have to infinitely, persist. It just does not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really does not. It's the other thing I just want to say, and I just want to be very clear about this. I don't know about you. I know that you and I have talked about this in previous show. We don't dismiss how much fear might be in your life right now. Not at all. Neither one of us is talking about taking the little red pill or the blue pill to really, understand the truth of this. There are so many layers. I think what we're talking about is that you really want to get yourself to a level of understanding, one, about what is going on with you, and two, all the options you have to change it. That's where, Megan, you come in, isn't it?
Right. And I can tell you firsthand that I was creating a lot of my pain and a lot of my suffering because I did have that belief at the core of my being that I deserved it, and that I wasn't worthy of happiness or love, and also it was a control mechanism. I was almost trying to control my own destiny by, creating these traumatic situations because I knew how to do that.
Yeah.
It is messed up, but
I know. I totally get it. Yeah. Yeah.
And freedom from that was scary. So it was like, wait a minute, no, I don't know if I want eternal bliss and love and light. I was like, I'm more familiar with this whole pain thing. Like, so I became somewhat of a masochist out of my own, desire to control things for myself.
Well, I started
it's kind of a twisted ideology.
It's a little twisted ideology, but once you realize that it's not control, but trust, that opens up the doorway. Right. That's why you and I are here talking about it. Megan, thank you so much for today. One last question. What's your personal message?
Thank you for having me.
Man, it was great. Thank you. What
My
would you
personal
like to
message is
just
to believe that you're worthy of more than trauma, that you are not your traumatic injury or experience, and that you are loved.
I love it. Megan Lyons, everyone. I'm Dr. Pat Carter. Thank you for hitting all the right buttons. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. One thing you'll know about both Megan and I is that perseverance is an understatement. Tenacity is more like it. And the reason we are here is because 15 years ago when I started this, women weren't listening to radio. And we've created an entire network for you, as well as some of our men friends that want to grow. Let's take a short break. Another hour on TTR coming up.
You've been listening to People Like Us Radio with Megan Lyons, transcending the trauma of the human experience. Tune in live every first and third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, where Megan enlightens other narcissistic abuse survivors to find true healing and inner peace through the beautiful art and practice of self-love. Megan knows it because she's lived it. The work on this show is powerful, life-changing, and provides a compelling purpose for survivors to be the light in the world. For more information about Megan Lyons or to listen to past episodes of this show, visit enterthelightllc.com.